Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're tackling business models. We're going to break down how they work, how they're evolving, and how understanding them can give you a real edge in navigating the business world.
Yeah, we're basically going to equip you with X-ray vision to see right through any company and get how they tick.
That's a great analogy. And to guide us on this journey, we've got Business Model Generation by Alexander Osterwalder and Yves Pigneur.
This book is like the Bible of business models. It lays out a clear framework for understanding, designing, and innovating them.
Okay, so let's dive right into the heart of it. What's this business model canvas I keep hearing about? Why is it so important?
Well, the business model canvas is basically a blueprint. It breaks down any business into 9 essential building blocks. Think of it like a recipe for success. Each block is a crucial ingredient.
9 building blocks, huh? Sounds like a lot to digest. But I guess that's why we're here, right?
Right. And trust me, once you see how these pieces fit together, it all starts to click. So first up, we've got customer segments.
Customer segments. Okay, so who are we talking about here? Is it just like everyone who might buy a product?
Not exactly. It's more targeted than that. It's about identifying specific groups of people or organizations with common needs and behaviors. Think about it. Not every product is for everyone, right?
That makes sense. Like a skateboard company probably isn't targeting grandmas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And successful businesses get really specific about WHO they're trying to reach. The book gives a great example with Telenor, the mobile company.
I've heard of them. What do they do?
They did some fascinating research on teenagers, specifically how teenagers use and share photos. This insight helped them develop mobile services that were a smash hit with that age group.
So they tapped into a specific need and behavior within that customer segment. Makes sense. What's the next building block on this canvas?
Next up, we've got value propositions. And this is really the heart of the business model. It's what sets a company apart from the competition.
So what exactly makes up a value proposition?
It's the unique mix of products and services a company offers to solve their customers' problems or satisfy their needs. It's the value they bring to the table, their secret sauce.
Okay, I'm getting it. It's not just about what you sell, it's about the benefit you provide. Do you have a favorite example of a company that nails its value proposition?
Rolls-Royce. They've got this brilliant model called Power by the Hour. Airlines don't buy their engines outright, they pay per hour of use. It's a game changer.
Wow, that's interesting. So it shifts the focus from just selling a product to providing a complete service. Rolls-Royce is essentially saying, we'll handle the engine stuff so you can focus on flying planes.
Exactly. It's a true win-win. Okay, so we've covered customer segments and value propositions. Next up, we've got channels.
Channels? Is this about like marketing and advertising? Getting the word out?
That's part of it. It's about how a company delivers its value proposition to its customer segments. It's about reaching your target audience in the most effective way possible.
So we're talking everything from social media to retail stores, right? Even like word of mouth.
You got it. And choosing the right channels for your target audience is key, which leads us nicely into the next building block, customer relationships.
So it's not just about getting customers, it's about keeping them happy too.
Precisely. This building block explores the type of relationship a company establishes with its customers. Is it a purely transactional, one-off interaction? Or do they build long-term, loyal relationships?
I guess that depends a lot on the industry and the product. What kind of company comes to mind when you think of building strong customer relationships?
Amazon, they're masters at this. They've really leveraged customer reviews to build a sense of community and trust. Think about it. How often do you read reviews before you buy something online?
All the time. It's like getting a recommendation from a friend. And Amazon's made that a core part of their platform. Pretty clever.
It's all about leveraging those relationships. Okay, so far we've covered customer segments, value propositions, channels, and customer relationships. Now let's talk about the moneymaker, revenue streams.
Okay, finally. So this is all about how a company actually generates cash, right?
Exactly. It's about the different ways a company brings in money from each customer segment.
And there are tons of different models, right? Like subscriptions, one-time purchases, advertising revenue, the list goes on.
You nailed it. And different models work better for different businesses. Take Zipcar, for example. They revolutionized the car rental industry with their hourly rental model.
Oh yeah, I've used them before. Super convenient. So they identified a need in the market, people wanting to rent cars for short periods, and created a revenue stream that catered to that.
Exactly. It's about finding the right fit. Now, once you've got your revenue streams figured out, you need to think about the resources needed to make it all happen. That's where key resources come in.
Key resources, okay. So what are we talking about here? The stuff you need to actually run the business.
Exactly. It's about the essential assets a company needs to make its business model work. This could be anything from physical assets like factories and equipment to intangible things like patents and intellectual property.
So it's everything from the stuff you can touch to the ideas and knowledge that give a company a competitive edge.
Absolutely. And it varies wildly depending on the company. Now, to put those resources to work, you need key activities. These are the most important things a company must do to make its business model function.
So it's about the actions that drive the business forward. If we think about a software company, their key activities would be things like coding and development.
Exactly. For a manufacturer, it might be production and logistics. Every business has its unique set of key activities that are crucial to its success. And a great example of this is Red Hat.
Red Hat, the open source software company, what are their key activities?
Well, they rely heavily on a massive community of developers who contribute to their open source software. So community engagement and collaboration are absolutely essential for them.
It's like they've turned collaboration into a core part of their business model. That's smart. Okay, 2 more building blocks to go, right?
You got it. Next up, we've got key partnerships. This building block highlights that no business operates in a vacuum. It's about leveraging the expertise and resources of others.
Strategic alliances, joint ventures, that sort of thing.
Exactly. It's about forming those crucial relationships that help a business thrive. And wouldn't you know it, Red Hat's reliance on that open source community is a prime example of a key partnership.
They've built a whole ecosystem that benefits both Red Hat and the developers who contribute. Okay, last building block, cost structure. I think I can guess what this one's about.
What do you think?
It's all about the money going OUT, right?
Yeah.
All the expenses involved in running the business.
You got it. It's about understanding all the costs involved in operating under a particular business model. We're talking fixed costs like rent and salaries, variable costs that fluctuate with production, and everything in between.
So companies are trying to optimize their operations, find efficiencies, and ultimately keep those costs as low as possible while still delivering quality products and services.
Exactly. And some companies have gotten ridiculously good at this. Amazon's logistics network, for example, is a marvel of cost efficiency.
Wow, we just zipped through all 9 building blocks of the business model canvas. It's amazing to see how all these pieces interlock to create a successful business.
It's a powerful framework, isn't it? You can use it to analyze any business. Your competitors, companies you admire, even your own business idea.
This is already giving me so many ideas. But I have a feeling this is just the tip of the iceberg, right? There's more to this business model thing than just the canvas.
Oh, there's much more to explore. The book also dives into different business model patterns that companies use, things like unbundling, the long tail, multi-sided platforms, even free E as a business model.
Whoa, those sound intriguing. We're definitely going to have to unpack those.
Absolutely. But that's a story for part 2 of our deep dive. Stay tuned. We'll be back to dissect those fascinating patterns. Welcome back. Ready to dive deeper into these business model patterns. I'm excited to unpack how companies are using them to shake things up and create new opportunities.
Me too. Last time we touched on unbundling, the long tail, multi-sided platforms, and using free E as a business model. What do you want to tackle first?
Let's start with unbundling. It's this idea that companies can actually be more successful by separating different parts of their business into distinct units. Instead of trying to be a one-stop shop for everything, they focus on what they do best.
Okay, so instead of being a jack of all trades, they become a master of one. What's the advantage of splitting things up like that?
Well, imagine a traditional private bank. They've historically handled everything, managing client relationships, developing financial products, maintaining all the infrastructure.
Yeah.
But each of those requires different skills, different resources, even different paces of innovation.
Yeah, I can see how conflicts might arise if one part of the business needs to move faster or differently than another. It'd be like trying to fit square pegs into round holes.
Exactly. Unbundling lets companies focus on their core competencies and avoid those internal battles. A great example is mobile telecom operators. Many have outsourced their network operations to focus on what they do best, building their brand and providing top-notch customer service.
So it's about playing to your strengths and letting others handle the things you're not as good at. It's like assembling a dream team, each member specializing in their area of expertise.
Exactly. Now let's move on to the long tail. This one's been supercharged by the internet. It's the idea that companies can profit from selling a huge variety of niche products, even if each one only appeals to a small number of customers.
So instead of trying to create a few blockbuster hits that appeal to everyone, you're catering to a bunch of smaller, more specific audiences.
Precisely. Think about Netflix. They have this massive library of films, many of which appeal to very specific tastes. Each individual movie might not get rented very often, but the sheer volume of their catalog creates a massive amount of revenue.
It's like they're casting a wider net and catching all those smaller fish that traditional movie studios might have overlooked. What are some other examples of the long tail in action?
Platforms like eBay and YouTube are perfect examples. They've become marketplaces for an incredible array of niche products and content.
Right. You can find almost anything on eBay, and YouTube has videos for every interest imaginable. It's a real shift from the traditional focus on just the most popular items. Okay, what about multi-sided platforms? How do those work?
Multi-sided platforms are all about bringing together two or more distinct but interdependent customer groups. They create value by facilitating interactions between these groups.
So they're like matchmakers, connecting buyers and sellers, or users and service providers. The platform thrives when all sides are actively engaged.
Exactly. A classic example is credit cards. They connect merchants who want to sell their goods and services with consumers who want to buy them.
Right, and the credit card company sits in the middle, facilitating those transactions and taking a small cut. What are some other examples of successful multi-sided platforms?
Oh, there are tons. Think about video game consoles. They connect game developers and players. A console with a huge player base is super attractive to developers, and a console with tons of great games will attract more players. It's a win-win.
Makes sense. It's like a symbiotic relationship. Each side benefits from the other's presence. And Google's search engine is another brilliant example. They connect people searching for information with advertisers trying to reach their target audience.
Right. The more users Google has, the more valuable their advertising space becomes. It's a brilliant model. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about free E as a business model. How on earth do companies make money by giving stuff away for free?
Yeah, that one always seems a bit counterintuitive.
It might seem strange, but it's actually a very common and effective approach. There are a few key patterns at play here.
I'm all ears. Let's break it down.
First, there's the advertising model. Think Facebook. They offer a free social networking platform and generate revenue through targeted advertising. They attract a massive user base, and that makes their ad space super valuable.
Right, because advertisers are willing to pay top dollar to reach those millions of eyeballs. It's all about scale.
Exactly. Then there's the freemium model. This is where companies offer basic services for free, but charge for premium features or additional functionality.
Ah, like Spotify or Dropbox. You get the basic service for free, but if you want more storage space or an ad-free experience, you got to pay.
Exactly. You give people a taste of the good stuff for free, and then they're more likely to upgrade for the full experience. It's a clever strategy. And finally, there's the bait and hook model. This is where companies offer a product at a low price, or even for free, and then make their profit from selling complementary goods or services.
Oh, like printers and ink cartridges.
You got it. The printer itself might be relatively cheap, but those replacement ink cartridges are where the real money is made. Gillette razors and blades are another classic example.
Makes perfect sense. It's like they're giving away the razor to hook you on buying the blades for life. So we've covered these 4 business model patterns: unbundling, the long tail, multi-sided platforms, and free E. Are there any other models from the book that we should explore?
There's one more key concept: open business models. This is where companies actively collaborate with external partners for innovation. Instead of keeping all their research and development efforts in-house, they tap into the collective intelligence of a wider network.
So it's about recognizing that great ideas can come from anywhere, not just from within your own company walls.
Yeah.
It's like crowdsourcing innovation.
Exactly. A great example is Procter & Gamble's Connect and Develop strategy. They actively seek out external sources of innovation, believing that the best ideas don't always come from their own employees. It's a pretty humble approach for a company of their size.
But it's clearly been incredibly effective. They've reported significant increases in their research and development productivity while keeping spending relatively stable. It seems like opening up to outside collaboration has been a win-win for them.
Absolutely. And it highlights how important it is to be open to new ideas and approaches in today's rapidly changing business landscape.
So we've covered a ton of ground: the business model, canvas, different patterns, and now this idea of open business models. It's amazing to see how companies are constantly finding new ways to create value and stay ahead of the curve.
It's truly fascinating, isn't it? Business model generation gives us a whole new way of looking at businesses. It's not just about understanding how they work, it's about envisioning how they could work differently.
I feel like I'm seeing the business world with fresh eyes. But understanding these models is just the first step, right? What about putting this knowledge into practice? How do we actually design and implement winning business models?
That's a great question, and that's exactly what we'll delve into in the final part of our deep dive. We'll explore techniques for designing, prototyping, and even telling compelling stories about business models. Stay tuned.
All right, welcome back to our deep dive into the world of business models. We've explored the business model canvas, a bunch of different patterns, and even touched on open innovation. Now, I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get practical. How do we actually use these insights to design and build successful business models in the real world?
That's the question, isn't it? And business model generation doesn't disappoint. It goes beyond just explaining the concepts and dives into practical techniques you can actually use.
Okay, so less theory, more action. I like it. Where do we start?
Well, it all begins with understanding your customers. The authors really stress the importance of getting deep customer insights.
Deeper than just, like, basic demographics and market research?
Exactly. It's about going beyond those surface-level surveys and focus groups and really getting into your customers' heads, understanding their needs, their desires, their pain points, even their unspoken aspirations.
So it's about genuine empathy, stepping into their shoes and seeing the world through their eyes.
Exactly. The book gives a fascinating example with Telenor, that mobile company we discussed earlier. Remember how they wanted to understand how teenagers use and share photos?
Yeah, and it led them to develop those super successful mobile services for that demographic. But how did they get those insights in the first place?
Well, instead of just traditional market research, they sent a sociologist to live with and interview groups of teenagers.
Whoa, a sociologist. Now that's an unconventional approach. I guess they really wanted to get an authentic understanding of their target audience.
Exactly. The sociologists observed their behaviors, listened to their conversations, even picked up on potential discrepancies between what the teenagers said and what they truly felt. It was about getting to the heart of their motivations and experiences.
That's going way deeper than just asking, what features do you want in a phone? You're uncovering those underlying needs that the customers themselves might not even be consciously aware of.
Precisely. And to help you map out these insights, the authors provide a tool called the Customer Empathy Map. It helps you visualize your customer's world by considering what they see, hear, think, feel, say, and do.
It's like building a comprehensive profile of your ideal customer, going beyond those surface-level demographics. Okay, so once you have a good grasp of your customer, what's next? How do you actually start generating those killer business model ideas?
That's where ideation comes in the process of brainstorming and coming up with new concepts. And the book lays out some excellent rules for running productive brainstorming sessions.
Brainstorming can be fun, but it can also easily get off track. What are some tips for keeping those sessions focused and effective?
Well, they emphasize deferring judgment. It means no idea is too crazy or outlandish at this stage. You want to create a safe space where people feel comfortable sharing even their wildest thoughts.
It's about quantity over quality in the game, right? Just getting all those ideas out on the table.
Exactly, and then you can start to sift through them and see which ones have real potential. They also talk about encouraging wild ideas. Sometimes the most groundbreaking innovations come from those seemingly crazy thoughts.
So you never know where that next big breakthrough will come from. Don't dismiss anything too quickly.
Right. And it's also crucial to prepare for these brainstorming sessions. Do your research, talk to customers, and let those insights fuel your creative thinking.
So set the stage for those sparks of brilliance to fly. But once you have a bunch of ideas floating around, how do you actually decide which ones to pursue? How do you refine them and figure out if they'll work in the real world?
That's where prototyping comes in. It's about bringing those abstract ideas to life and making them tangible. It's about testing your assumptions and seeing how your business model might function in reality.
So prototyping isn't just for physical products. You can prototype business models too.
Absolutely. And a business model prototype can take many forms. It could be a simple sketch on a whiteboard, a detailed financial spreadsheet that models different scenarios, or even a role-playing exercise where you act out different customer interactions.
So it's about experimenting and getting a feel for how the model might actually work in practice.
Exactly. And the beauty of prototyping is that it's iterative. You can start simple and gradually refine your model as you gather feedback and learn more. It's about embracing that fail fast, learn fast mentality.
It's like building a model airplane before you try to fly the real thing. It helps you iron out any kinks and make adjustments along the way.
Okay, so you've got your customer insights, you've brainstormed some ideas, you've prototyped and refined them. What's next?
Well, even the most brilliant business model is worthless if you can't communicate it effectively. You need to get investors on board, excite your team, and ultimately convince customers to buy into your vision.
That makes sense. Even the best idea needs a good story to bring it to life.
And that's exactly what business model generation suggests. Storytelling. Storytelling. But how do you tell a compelling story around something as, well, seemingly dry as a business model?
Well, the authors offer a few different approaches. One is to introduce the problem your business model solves and then present your model as the hero, the solution that overcomes those challenges.
So you're framing it as a quest, with your business model riding in to save the day.
Yeah.
I like it. What are some other storytelling techniques they recommend?
They also suggest telling stories from the customer's perspective, paint a vivid picture of their frustrations, and then showcase how your business model comes to the rescue, making their lives easier or better in some way. It's a powerful way to create an emotional connection.
So you're not just talking about features and benefits, you're showing the human impact of your business model. That's smart. Are there any other storytelling tips they offer?
One more. They recommend using storytelling to make the future tangible. Create scenarios that depict how your business model will thrive in different possible futures. It helps people visualize the possibilities and get excited about what you're building.
It's like taking your audience on a journey and showing them the amazing destination your business model can take them to. Okay, so we've covered customer insights, ideation, prototyping, and storytelling. What else should we be thinking about when designing and implementing successful business models?
Business model generation also emphasizes the importance of understanding the environment your business will operate in. They recommend mapping out 4 key areas.
4 key areas. All right, lay them on me.
First, you've got market forces. This is all about understanding your target market, customer demographics, preferences, buying behaviors, and overall market trends.
Okay, so you're sizing up the playing field and figuring out who your customers are and what they're looking for. What's next?
Then you've got industry forces. Who are your competitors? What are their strengths and weaknesses? Are there any new entrants or disruptors lurking on the horizon?
So you're doing your competitive analysis, knowing who you're up against and anticipating any potential challenges from existing players or newcomers. Makes sense. What's the third area?
Key trends. What are the technological, societal, regulatory, or economic trends that could impact your business, either positively or negatively?
So it's about scanning the horizon and looking for any emerging trends that could create opportunities or threats for your business. It's about staying ahead of the curve. What's the final area?
Macroeconomic forces. These are the big picture economic factors like interest rates, inflation, and currency fluctuations that can have a significant impact on your business model.
Right, because even the best business model can be affected by those larger economic forces that are often outside of our control. By carefully considering all 4 of these areas, you could develop a much more robust and resilient business model.
Exactly. Now, one more tool the book recommends for evaluating your business model is the classics SWOT analysis.
The SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I've definitely come across that before. But how do you apply it specifically to business models?
Well, you examine both internal and external factors. Internal strengths might be things like a strong brand reputation or a highly efficient production process. Internal weaknesses could be things like a limited product line or high operating costs.
So you're taking stock of what you're good at and where you might have some room for improvement.
Exactly. Then you look externally. Opportunities could be a growing market or emerging technologies that you can leverage. Threats might include new competitors entering the market or changing regulations that could create hurdles for your business.
It's about being honest about both your strengths and weaknesses, and then strategically positioning yourself to capitalize on those opportunities and mitigate potential threats. Sounds like a solid approach.
It is. And one final point business model generation emphasizes is that business model innovation is an ongoing process. It's not about coming up with the perfect model and then sticking with it forever.
Because the world's constantly changing, right? What worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. So how do we make sure our business models stay relevant and adapt to those inevitable shifts in the market?
The authors are big on continuous learning and adaptation. You need to constantly evaluate your business model, gather feedback from your customers in the market, and be willing to make adjustments as needed. It's about staying agile and responsive.
So it's not about finding that one perfect solution. It's about embracing that constant evolution and iteration.
Exactly. Business model generation really gives us a fantastic toolkit for understanding, designing, and innovating business models. But the real magic happens when we put those tools into practice. It's about experimenting, iterating, learning, and never being afraid to try new things.
This has been an incredible deep dive. We've gone from the fundamentals of business models to practical techniques for designing and implementing them. I feel like I've gained a whole new perspective on how businesses work and how they can work better.
I'm glad to hear that. The beauty of this book is that it gives you a new lens to see the world of business. It's not just about analyzing what already exists. It's about imagining and creating new possibilities.
And that's what I love about exploring these topics with you. It's not just about understanding the status quo. It's about unlocking that creative potential and seeing what we can build. It's been a truly inspiring conversation.
I agree. And remember, the best way to really master these concepts is to put them into action. Start experimenting with the business model canvas, explore those different patterns, and don't be afraid to think outside the box.
That's right, folks. Get out there and start generating some business model magic. And be sure to join us for our next deep dive, where we'll be exploring another fascinating topic. Until then, happy innovating.